Welcome to the world of stand-up.
I'm stoked that that's what's happening, man. I feel for you in that. We started recording and you were saying that basically the dog days of winter were killing you, and now you're back, right? You got a new tour you're planning.
Yep. Just trying to think of the name. So far, every name I'm thinking of for the tour is super offensive. So,
Life After
did you watch?
Pets, dude?
Did you like
cool.
that?
Yeah,
did you
that's
see
cool.
Ricky Gervais's new one?
Yes.
How amazing, dude! That was a
I
masterful.
love how he doesn't give a single fuck.
and
about
he's
offending
giggling
anyone.
through the whole thing. Dude, I laughed out loud so many times during it, and it's hard to laugh out loud when I'm watching Netflix.
Dude, here's the thing about that special. If you were to have watched that special 10 years ago, you'd think, oh, this is the funniest thing ever. Nobody's offended.
Yeah.
It's all real shit. Now we've got this, like, everybody gets their
Only
bumpers on.
one group got offended though.
Oh,
He went for everything.
Oh, everything, dude.
He literally put it all out there.
Religion, sexuality, race, like he was all in.
One thing I read on the articles. So
which was the group that he offended?
transgenders.
Oh, you don't say. They seem a little bit concerned about offense.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, if we're gonna heal, if we're gonna you have to be able to joke about stuff. Otherwise, it just bottles up and gets worse, man.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I love how there was a joke that he said in there, and I'm not even going to try to recreate it, but the premise was basically like, we're including you. We're joking about you. That tells you that we accept you. We got no problem with this. But if there's things that are funny about it, it's good that we feel open enough to do this. And you guys losing your shit over this stuff doesn't show well for you.
Right? Because, like, man, this is a fairly new thing. Like, I haven't been around a lot of transgender people, but
Right.
like when I am, my internal dialogue is like, I feel for them. I'm very aware of what's going on,
Right.
and I feel awkward. Like, I feel like I'm coming across as awkward because it's so don't talk about it,
Right.
And I went to this thing called Encircled here in Utah.
Is that the deal that, no, that's Love Loud. Was it kind of similar?
Yeah, the Imagine Dragons dude was there.
Okay.
Dwayne Wade was there.
Okay.
Tim Cook from Apple was there. Like, the governor was, and they all got up and they raised $2.5 million for these homes that someone who's transgender that doesn't like feel like they fit anywhere, maybe they've been kicked out of their house, goes and they have a therapist. And it was a really beautiful, amazing night with them raising money and these people speaking. And I like super heartfelt.
Right.
And at the same time, Ricky Gervais is funny as shit.
Right.
They both can coexist, that's the thing. And I also, did you go to Chappelle when he was here?
I didn't know.
So he went there too.
Yeah, well, of
on the
course he did.
swimmer. And he's like, I promised I won't do anything on this on TV. That was his caveat. And then he went in and, dude, I've seen Chappelle, I think 6 times here in Utah, maybe 5. But Capitol Theater, I saw him. I saw him at the Huntsman Center, and I seen him at Vivint. Like, I've seen him at, you probably went when him and Rogan were out there. I think we talked about that, USANA.
Yep.
And, dude, the thing is, I was just watching him. He feels like he's saying it in the moment, like not rehearsed, like you're just in his life. Yeah. And he just walked around the round smoking 1,000 cigarettes. And I was just like, this is phenomenal. But here was the big thing. He said, you guys are here tonight for one reason. I dream big and I'm committed to my dream. And I brought you into my dream. And I was like, dude, I walked away and I was like, it's time to up my game in comedy.
Yeah.
Like, totally inspired.
Dude, it means so much that you're here right now. This is basically my first real 2-person episode on the new iteration of stand-up with the 3 cameras and everything. Like, I'm going all in. And you and I, everybody, this is Garrett Gunderson, comedian extraordinary. He's also written a couple fucking books that have been super successful, so whatever.
Dude, more successful than I knew.
Right?
I just recently looked up Killing Sacred Cows, written in 2008. And I was like, just because I'm launching the sequel, and I'm like looking at the audiobook version, and it's number 33 in investing and like 50 something in personal finance. Right. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, because your royalties on Audible
it's so
are
much
nothing.
more popular than I thought.
I'm like, people are reading my shit. This is amazing,
I didn't know they were going to do that. I hoped. But.
Yeah, it's like, I thought they were
when you had just released that book a couple years before we met, and to kind of keep it on a comedy theme, you and I our wives went out for an evening. We saw here in Utah Dane Cook at Maverick Center in the round.
Packed the house.
Yeah.
It was full.
You and I were both buzzing. We had some drinks beforehand.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I had a lot of drinks.
This fucking guy is sitting up there going like, I could fucking do that. And I'm like, that's
your
Dane
thought. What are your
Cook,
thoughts?
dude?
Yeah,
I'm
you're
like, that's fucking Dane Cook,
and
you
Dane's
prick.
manager at that time
Barry
is now
Katz.
my manager.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Here we are all these years later, 14 years later. You did an actual tour.
Yeah.
You have Barry Katz
And Barry discovered
as your
me
agent.
in the round.
Yeah.
He saw me. It was my first time in the round, and it was like one of my best nights of comedy. And
Check you. Well, see,
I thought he was putting me on. He's
hold
like,
on.
yeah,
Let
yeah.
me bring these two things together. Okay?
Okay.
So you had shared when you saw Chappelle that he had said that I dream big and I'm committed to my dream. I brought you guys into my dream.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I've always appreciated about you is like there doesn't seem to be a boundary of what you want. Like it evolves. Like you will think you know what you want, and as you get closer, you're like, oh, there's so much more. And the way that you've kind of shown up in comedy is that way. When I started comedy, I thought that you had to do the fucking grind in every open mic and every bar mic and everything. And I did that for 2 years. And my comedy got a little bit better, but it really didn't start getting better until
I saw you at that one open mic, and I came up and complimented you.
You did. That meant a lot to me, dude.
On the marijuana jokes that you were doing that night were hilarious. Like, because they were like, I'm like, where's he going with this? And you would surprise me. And then I was like, oh, I think he's going here. And it was like, oh, it was funnier than I thought. So I went up and complimented you after that. I was like, hey, that was really good.
I appreciate that so much, man. Like my journey in comedy has been laden with insecurity and like, is this actually funny? I started getting better when I started hosting shows because I realized that there's like having to have two different parallel running priorities at the same time helped my comedy in a weird way because you're there for the headliner. You got to get the crowd up to a certain point, but not too much because you don't want to overshadow the headliner. And then when I headlined for the first time is when I realized, oh, this is where you earn your chops. And so it became for me at that point, like, okay, so I'm going to keep doing this when it serves, but I'm fucking going for headlining. And then I've headlined 3 times since then. And every time I've gotten more and more big. And watching what you did, I'm like, dude, he's doing some shit I don't know how to do relative to putting yourself in front of people as a headliner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and on top of that, you're funny as shit. Like when you showed me that advanced copy of your special and you start out with the rap, you know,
Right.
I'm like, this is the funniest, most clever thing I think I've seen in a long, long time. And that's what comedy actually is. It's like, I forget sometimes in this little sort of like underbelly of local scenes all over the country that like the desire to be truly relevant and funny as a comedian doesn't happen there. It happens when people can actually become your fan and see you on a broader scale. And you're just proof of that. It's fucking amazing, dude.
So first
is that a good enough blowjob? I didn't use.
Thank you. Yeah, that didn't tickle or nothing.
Okay, good.
So, what was, man, that money rap one is where I'm at with it now because it was kind of rushed.
You'll be doing that at your Jordan Landing shows.
Yeah,
right?
I'll definitely be doing that at the show coming up. I just did Austin. I did the Creek in the Cave, which was the second time I've done it. And at the end I go, who wants to hear like some new jokes? Or I'm a 43-year-old white man that could try to rap, which way? And they were actually mixed. I thought every time it's like, let's see the white boy rap. Right. And so I only did half the money rap. But what that came about was like I was writing down every phrase I had ever heard around money. Yeah. Every way money had ever been referenced. And I was collecting that. And Barry was collecting that. And Marcus was collecting that. And what I would do is, as I was practicing, I was doing a lot of Zooms because I'm like, I didn't want to do open mics. It's 3 minutes. You sit around for a long time. And the few times I did open mics, I was kind of a dick because I would just show up and get to go on whenever. Yeah. And I felt bad for the other people that were sitting there because I didn't really earn that. I was just around the right people.
You had the right mentor that got you into that.
Right. So basically, I would just write down all these and a couple times when I was Zoom, like I could actually have a teleprompter and I would just read as fast as I could all the phrases. And people would be like, dude, that was like Carlin-esque. Now that's my friend. So I'm not comparing myself to Carlin by any means, but just the fact that it was like fast and all this. And then one night Marcus goes, dude, I just had the craziest flow. Look at the document. And he had rearranged it. And so then he directed and we had 2 days at Wise Guys and we filmed it. And where I am now at doing it, because I've done it so many times, I think it's a lot more playful because that was like 2 weeks from the time it was written till the time it was filmed.
Well, dude, it's long. It's what, like 6 minutes?
It's 5.5 minutes, yeah.
And it's dense, not just long. It's dense. Yeah. It's very quippy and clever, and you know there's a journey to the whole rap, and it's so 6 minutes of performing and memorizing, and then like adding some style into it in the moment. Like, dude, I can't.
Yeah, like 16 costume changes. And,
right. Yeah.
You know, and yeah, it was challenging, man, but fun. And I think it's a cool way to start the thing. And now it's how I end. But I like it because I actually do like a poem for my last few lines, because I just watched every episode of Comedians in Cars while I was writing my special. And there were just these moments where someone like Steve Martin would say, hey man, your opening line is everything. Mm-hmm. So I literally, for 24 hours, I'm like, what's my opening line? And I came up with this idea to pull out a $1 bill or 20 and be like, money, whoever thought 6 inches could be so destructive. And like, bam, like that's a good opening line because it informs the thing. And then my last line is, you know, it's not about small change, quick change, short change, or chump change. It's time for change. But hey, that's my 2 cents. So it's like, and that was because Martin Short's like, your final line means everything. And I think there's a lot of comedians that'll like be having a killer set and then they just go, hey, good night.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, damn. So I've learned a lot. I watched so much comedy and doing it, but like really, I feel like I know what my style is. The one element that I'm kind of still trying to break through is I'm pretty clean. But if you're hanging out with me every day,
you're not clean at all.
That's not who I am.
Yeah.
My jokes I would never, like right now, I'm not ready to tell on stage that I tell to my wife. She laughs hard, but she's like, oh my God, you were definitely, like, and even Barry, I have this joke where I'm like talking about people today don't labor. I'm like, you know, kids don't labor. Working at Jamba Juice or driving people around your Uber, that's not labor. I'm like, that's why they call having a baby labor, because it's hard ass work that wrecks the body. And ladies, you deserve a few hours off afterwards. And like,
few hours off.
And like that, like at first they're clapping, and then they're booing me. And then last time I was on stage, I just came up with this other idea on that. I'm like, hey, I know I'm like a man. So you're thinking, what the hell do you know? That's tone deaf. I'm like, well, look, I'd been dairy free for years and went to Italy. And I discovered Pecorino Toscano. It's the most amazing cheese you could ever have, but I ate the whole fucking wheel. And the next day I gave birth to an 8-pound, 3-ounce shit. There was blood and tears. We named it. We had a ceremony, but I was back in the game a few hours later, you know? So like, it's just fun when that stuff like comes to you on stage and, you know, and like.
Dude, that's interesting. I've been opposite. I try to do clean. I can't do clean. Like, it just feels like I'm throttling myself in a way that I'm not mature enough as a comedian to handle.
I mean, part of it is my first special, I was like, I want to really use comedy to help people heal with money.
Right.
And I think part of it is, man, I'm born in Utah, and I got this one side of my family, my mom's side, super Catholic, went to church every day, 7 days a week. Knights of Columbus, volunteer for everything. And then the other side of my family is Mormon royalty, bro. Great-great-great-grandfather is Wilford Woodruff, president of the church, right?
Yeah.
So
lots of wives.
So this is where comedy came in. Is like it's the only thing I could get away with anything for the most part. I could swear as a kid when I was doing comedy, didn't get in trouble. If I swore otherwise, my mom would backhand me right in the face, man. And even now to this day, my grandma's 90, still Mormon, and when we get together, she wants to hear my jokes. And these are jokes I don't even tell on stage because I think I'd get canceled.
Right.
Some of them aren't like that bad, but there's like some of the things I say that, like the punchline of one is twat, and she laughs so hard, and I'm like, Grandma, what is going on? Who's underneath there that wants to come out, right?
Do you have any jokes about your family that you were concerned about them hearing?
No, well, yeah, my wife has like the list of what she doesn't want me to tell.
Okay.
And she's like, that gets to be between the family. So what I do now is I just try to tell her the worst, most extreme joke that I could possibly think of. And she's like, no. And then I tell the joke that I want to tell. Like in the special.
You hacked the system.
Yeah. Like in the special, we cut this joke. And
She's
my brother,
gonna watch this. You know that, right?
Yeah, it's fine. She knows. She's just like, how much shit can I handle? So in the special, I'm talking about the Easter Bunny. And like, I just have this moment. It was the second taping. So I'm already kind of like, we've got it in the bag. Right. I'm just having fun. I was like, no wonder do I have a problem with pedophilia. Like, here, kids, go to a stranger dressed in a costume that creeps you out, and he'll give you things for free. Even worse, go around the corner where he's hidden some egg, and then I'm like, nah, like, I'm like, I don't want to talk about pedophilia. I was like, if I was going to do that, I'd talk about my brother-in-law. I mean, he dates girls so young, and I just go off about like how he had a girlfriend that lost her job. He's like, I'm super bummed. I'm like, why? He's like, she lost her job. I'm like, from where? She's like, Jamba Juice.
Hot topic.
I mean, we're not talking about corporate headquarters or anything. We're talking about like, well, how are you ever going to get that peanut butter mood 30% off? You know, I was like, will all that training translate to Taco Bell? I just don't know. So I just went off on this whole thing. We cut it just because I don't really want to. His new girlfriend that he's engaged to, and I'm his best man. I don't want her to think the joke was about her, even though she's young.
Of course,
it was a girl that was much younger.
There's a theme.
Like, you know, I mean, of age, but barely. Like, you got to check the ID type of thing.
Dude, it's funny you say that. Like, as far as young girls are concerned, that way. I'm surprised because you know I'm in my mid 40s. I'm 46 at the time of recording this, and one of my clients, he just gone through a divorce. He's my age, really wealthy guy out of Colorado, owns a landscaping company. We're doing his podcast. And he's talking about how he's dating this girl. He pulls up his phone on our Zoom call and shows this like screenshot picture, and she's a fucking smoke show. And I'm like, I jokingly go like, "What strip club did you pull her out of?" And he says a name. I'm like, "Oh shit, I was kidding." And I go, "Bro, how old is she?" And he's like, "She's 24." And I'm like,
what conversations are you having, by the way? What are the conversations like?
What do you talk about?
When I'm referencing the Beastie Boys and these girls don't know what I'm talking about,
Classic
I'm like,
rock, what?
I'm like, have you ever seen this? No. I'm like, I guess the guys are like, I get to show them a whole new world.
Dude, but it was so funny too because he went full cliche. He's like, no, dude, like she's really responsible, man. Like she earns money at the strip club to send to her family in Nebraska. And I'm like,
to pay for law school.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, no, she's great. And we've developed a friendship, so I bust his balls a little bit. He's like, dude, I don't give a shit, man. He's like, you know how pink that thing is? I'm like, I don't need to know, bro. It's all good.
Dude.
Hey,
oh my God, man.
One of my other good friends is into that too, and I don't understand it. It's like if I was ever in the dating world again, like I have zero interest in dating girls that young.
Dude, I am domesticated, dude.
Me too.
20 years I've been married now.
17,
I know I'm a good writer.
Yeah.
I know all this kind of stuff, but I would probably just sound like a narc trying to hit on girls. Like I would just would be like you know, I'm just so sarcastic with my wife, and I know her so well, and it's like, I don't know. I'm just glad that I'm not out there in the dating world. Like I've never sent a dick pic. I've never.
What's that? I'm not familiar with that.
I mean, I've never been on a dating app.
Right.
You know, I've never created some stupid profile. Like, dude,
isn't it just the most two married guys here? The most crazy world to even consider. Like I'll have friends that are single that tell me stories about this shit, and I go, that sounds like the most horrible thing you would ever have to put yourself through.
Yeah, man, it's just like my buddy, he's getting married. I'm his best man next month, and the girl that he went on a date with before this one that he found where he was about to start off, he's like, we're 5 minutes into the date, and she watched a documentary on Sills, and she's bawling her eyes out. He's like, we're just sitting down for dinner, and she's like, it just like really got to me. Sills the animal, right? Not like Sil the singer, which I could see, like, you know.
That's a sad one too.
That's a sad one too, man. I mean, so I'm, you know.
She'd be like, who's that guy with the face? Like if she saw a documentary about Seal the artist.
Right. It's like, and my friends that date on apps, you know, they'll just tell me the stories about how different, like, and I'm like, yeah, man, I'm good. Like if I'm ever frustrated with my wife or she's frustrated with me, I'm like, we'll get through this because we're not going back out into the wild,
right,
man.
No shit, right?
It's just not, you know.
There's so much comfort in that. One of my friends was saying that it's so new for guys that are our age because in that world, everything starts with sex. Like it's like we're gonna fuck first and then we'll see. And I'm like, that's real? People do that? That sounds scary as shit, dude. Like, let's have a dinner first. Go to a movie. None of this coffee and bang stuff.
Here's the crazy thing is there's this thing called the 12 Steps of Intimacy that some psychologist wrote.
Right.
And this guy, Rory Williams, not like the coach, but the guy that wrote the Wizard of Ads trilogy. He's the most prolific like ad writer for radio.
Right.
I've taken a lot of courses from him. I'm actually the dean of finance for his business academy, which means I teach a class one. It's the most overinflated title ever, right? But
at least you got it.
But I could say it.
You're a dean of the school. There
dean
it is.
of a
Garrett
school.
Gunderson.
What do I do for that? I teach a class.
Dean of the rural school.
And this is a school where they have something called purple coffee, meaning they're serving wine at 9 a.m. in class. So that's the kind of school I like to be the dean of.
Sign me up.
But he has this like study where he's like, there's these 12 steps of intimacy where you make like eye contact first and then hand to shoulder. And then it's like sex is step 12. And it shows the level of bonding that happens in a human being when you go through the steps that way, because we're so out of sequence with what we're doing.
Right.
Like it's actually messing up the bonding chemistry and the hormones inside of the body that connects to the other human being.
That's really interesting.
And he was actually teaching it from a marketing standpoint, saying like, hey, you don't like send out an email and be like, want to fuck. It's like, hey, let's get to know each other. And here's step one. And he's like, so what if you like really took time to bond? Right.
Oh, I made her laugh. She likes me.
I mean, and look, man, I like my wife and I took that time, which is strange for people who know me and knew me. Like literally as soon as we started dating, people were like, you're dating him? Like she was much more innocent and sweet. And look, I wasn't like a whore because I thought that you could get AIDS.
Because I didn't take money.
I thought you get AIDS back then. I thought someone had told me when I was 18 years old, 1 in 4 people are going to get AIDS. And I remember having sex with a girl from Pennsylvania, and it was the number one guy got hired state
by MSNBC to talk about COVID.
Yeah, Fauci was the dumbass that said it, no doubt. Like he just, whatever fear mongering that dude could do.
Right.
But so that probably saved me, from any pregnancies or STDs.
I get it, dude. I really
and all that
do.
kind of stuff. And Catholic guilt. I had Catholic guilt back then. Yeah.
See, Mormon guilt here, mixed.
Worse than Catholic, but
mixed with Mormon fear, right? I was a horn dog as a kid, couldn't do a damn thing about it because I wasn't going to fucking go to hell. Are you kidding me? And then I get a girlfriend, lovely girl. We go through the 12 steps of intimacy. I mean, we missed number 12, but we go halfway to 12. And
floating?
Soaking, you mean? No.
Soaking? Yeah.
Like she,
Yeah.
And awesome. But felt guilt, didn't confess in the right manner, go on a mission. I'm in the MTC down in Provo, and the guilt is just the weight of 10,000 suns. You know what I mean? And so I do it. I come home. I wait. She, isn't there anymore, obviously. I go back on my mission. And like a fucking dumbass, I meet a girl on my mission that I end up marrying 5 weeks after I get home. So
met a girl on your mission.
She was a sister missionary.
Is this in your comedy routine anywhere?
Not yet.
It will be. It's got to be.
It's got to be because there's been a lot of dude, that's a great point. There's been a lot of Mormon shit that I've worked out that'd be funny that I've just not wanted to do in Utah because it seems hack. But I know it's not because Mormonism and that culture it's kind of everywhere now.
When people want to be there's a lot of preconceived notion about it that's not real from people who are on the outside. So there could actually be some helpful pieces that could come from it, but also,
My point was saying that was I want it to be really funny.
Yeah.
And I haven't felt like it was funny enough to be funny outside of Utah. And so I've been elevating other jokes that I've been writing above that. But there is something there because what sort of fucking idiot does that? Goes on a Mormon mission, meets a sister missionary, writes with her when she comes home. She's planning the fucking wedding. I get home 5 weeks later, we're in the temple in Portland, Oregon getting married. You can't write a comedy skit funnier than that. And that actually happened to me.
Dude.
And then moved to BYU to go to school.
You at BYU, there's some comedy there.
Oh, dude, tons. Well, I kind of hacked the system at BYU because my wife at the time, she had a year left on her degree. And we couldn't afford at that time to both be going to school. I wasn't smart enough to get scholarships. I got a grant or two, but I ended up just skiing. I went to Deer Valley and got a job and started skiing and ended up started competing even skiing up there. And it became kind of a thing. And I went to summer school and then she ended up getting a corporate job in Provo. And my career at Deer Valley, I got elevated to a management position and then I moved over to Snowbird and we moved up here to West Jordan. And it just kind of was this weird sort of thing that just felt like it was rudderless. We had our first baby and that's when kind of shit went bad. Because I got into mortgages at the time, and I got my first taste of actually making a little bit of money. And I'm like, I really like this. I think I'd like to do more of this. And she had a background, 9 kids in their family. Money's evil. Money's I bought a BMW and a Rolex, and she thought I had slept with a hooker. It was that level of sort of
really deep programming.
Oh, yeah, deep programming. And that ended up becoming something that really wedged.
Didn't she know that Mormons are really good at business and the church is really wealthy?
But that's other Mormons, not the one she's married to. That's the beautiful irony. That's a joke you could write about Mormonism. It's you have fucking guys like Huntsman that used to, loan his private jet, his G5 to Hinckley when he was prophet. And that's cool. Oh, it's so cool that he uses money for benevolent reasons. But if you're the guy trying to get that kind of money, you're, going after filthy lucre and you're clearly going to do blow at some point, I suppose, because it's how they look at what money does to you. And I'm like, actually, the reality is money's a magnifier, and you probably weren't going to do that anyway because you're a piece of shit because you never done the work on yourself internally.
Yeah, before I did the work, when I had money, I was definitely an asshole.
Yeah, me too.
Like,
high five.
Yeah, my wife was really good at like pointing it out. You know,
Yeah.
like I remember I was driving my Bentley. We go to the Grand American. They didn't park me up front. I was like, "What's wrong with them?" She's like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah,
I was like, "Yeah, like okay, maybe."
I remember seeing that Bentley. I think it was dope, dude. That black one,
Yeah.
coupe.
Or like
pictures out at the sand.
She spilled Coke in it once, and I yelled at her, and she's like, "I'm going in to talk to your mom right now." Like I'm in my 20s, and she goes, and she's like, "You know what your son just did?" And I'm like, "Jesus, I'm still scared of my mom. I'm in my 20s." But yeah, like, you know, I remember I was interviewed for this magazine, and this why we did those pictures out in the Salt Flats. And I'd had a really big financial year in 2007, and the article comes out like at the very beginning of 2008. And I remember saying, and I just feel like such a douchebag for saying it, but I was like, you know, I've just made so much. It's not really about what I can spend. I could never spend what I've made. It's what I could give back. And then the universe
so
just
fucking cringe, dude.
it was so bad. And the universe just was like, you're such a douchebag that we're just going to take this away from you, and then you can reinvent yourself.
So you basically
less
got
douchey.
put on timeout by God. He's like,
Definitely was like,
Go to the
because
corner.
2008, like
Yeah.
I'm like putting gas on a credit card and you know using points for every flight and all this kind of stuff, and I really felt like that statement was the height of my stupidity and arrogance and ignorance and all that kind of stuff. So.
Isn't it funny how that happens though? Like you have to go through a phase like that. I guess technically you don't have to. There's ways to avoid it, but it seems like more go through something like that where unless you've gone through a period of rapid growth financially where all of a sudden you have way more money than you thought you would ever, and then there's no obstacle to buying the thing that you want or doing the thing that you want, it takes an adjustment. It's like it's a crazy sort of move to experience that. Not a lot of people get it.
I felt like sums it all up. I didn't love myself as much as I wanted other people to love me, and the way I thought they would love me is if I could show this really cool lifestyle.
That's really poignant, man.
That was arrogance. Arrogance is wanting other people to love you more than you love yourself. And ultimately, I thought status equaled value, and that if I had enough of that I could prove that I wasn't the stupid, unlovable kid that I thought deep down that I was. And so it took some healing to get past that.
Do you feel that healing ended and it was sufficient after that and you started doing it? Or did
I feel like I'm still on this like very imperfect journey where I'm like, and now that I'm in my 40s, I'm just way more self-aware. And so I get judgmental on myself. I'm like, how have I not figured some of these things out yet? Like sometimes I'm like, I'm kind of really tired of being this imperfect at times. You know, like I'm like,
it's so
like,
hard to
wouldn't
be so
it be
imperfect.
nice to just have something be a lesson and be like, cool, but I kind of feel like we're here on earth and we're just going to keep learning lessons at different levels.
Yep.
And they're just different things. I mean, like I still have found myself this year in envy and jealousy in a way that I haven't felt for years. And I'm like, wow, this is like, how is this still here? And I have to do more searching. And then, you know, like
how much of that is connected to comedy though?
Some of it is in the way that I'm making this major transition. Like, okay, last year I sold the house that we lived in for 9 years, bought a new house. I sold the company that I had built since June of 1998, and it officially transacted June of 2021. I filmed a comedy special. I did a comedy tour. I started a new business. My kids are teenagers, and my best friend moved away, who I talked to every day, which helped me process a lot of stuff. So when the tour was over, I had a level of exhaustion, and I think I went into a bit of escapism, just like a TV series was supposed to be filmed with a pilot, and I just got to a place where I was like, whoa, this is a lot, and I was like, can I handle all this? And the answer was, I tried to handle it in the wrong way. Instead of like meditating every day and processing it, I would turn on a sports thing and watch it to not have to deal with the situation. Right. And eventually, you know, I had to deal with it and face it. I mean, last week was a profound week for me because I was at my cabin for an entire week by myself, just me and my dog, because I had COVID and we didn't want to get the kids COVID. And that COVID was like the most minor cold I've ever had because I'm a baby when I'm sick. So it was really just this gift to be like, go be by yourself. And I spent a lot of time with my thoughts and like with what I'm up to, and just remembered that gratitude and love are these keys that somehow I had suppressed because I was so caught up in getting so many things happening all at once. And I was starting to be a baby because February was big for me, man. I headlined 2 sold out shows in Ogden, which was just cool to be in the hometown and have Keith ask me. Right. I just felt really honored. Then I got paid $25,000 to go do a comedy gig that Kevin Hart and Sebastian were the last 2 comedians that they hired.
Oh, shit.
And then I went and did another comedy gig at Genius Network and roasted Joe Polish all in the same week. And then booked 2 other, $20,000 comedy gigs where I'm doing for corporate. So I'm like, this is amazing. Then March comes, didn't book a thing, haven't planned the tour. I just got into a lull. And I think part of that lull was like, all right, don't go to my old self where I know I can make money in finance and I know I'm good, but I'm not fulfilled. I need to stick to like, I'm an entertainer and this is what I love doing. And you know what? Then I wrote Life After Debt so fast, which is a book using comedy to deal with this topic most people struggle with, because I created that space, because I finally processed some of these things, because I acknowledged that it was sad to have my buddy move away. And it was like, I had to process. Yeah, even though I was kind of done with that phase of my business, like that was still part of me and I didn't really mourn it, and so I like processed all that. And I just think that's a lot for any human to handle. I get these are super privileged problems and I'm a little bit, whatever people want to judge, but this is what I think is concerning about today's times. People that are in dire poverty, that have faced systemic racism, people that have been, like absolutely, like you could look and you're like, what a terrible situation. It's easy to point out how terrible. Has diminished the ability for other human beings that have a good life to feel sad, to feel like something didn't work out, to process some type of emotion. Like we're not allowed to do it because I'm a 40-year-old, like Ricky Gervais says, he goes, well, I'm in such a small percentage of people. I'm white and I'm a multimillionaire. Yeah. It's like, and I'm like, but that doesn't mean that we don't have real emotions and pain and struggles and frustrations and, insecurities and concerns about our family and all this kind of stuff. But it's like some people just don't feel like they're allowed to say that because their life's so good.
That's such a great point, man. And that's a real thing that is a detriment to the individual experiences of people that experience sadness and experience frustration and experience disappointment and things and feel slighted or feel like they've been, dare I use the word, oppressed in any way, but because they're not on the lowest tier or the lower tiers, they misvalue it in a way that just they swallow it instead of actually dealing
and
with it.
Unprocessed pain and trauma and emotion that gets suppressed turns into addiction. It turns into numbness. It turns into frustration. It turns into a crisis of our own identity. Yeah. And so that's unfortunately what a lot of people face. And so I'm here to say that, I know people that have had much, much more dire circumstances in their life. But look, man, when I was 3 years old, I got hit by a car. That was pretty traumatic.
That makes sense.
I know a lot of stuff just like came together. But I mean, watching like, okay, that was my first deal with being imperfect because I'm like, oh, I just created pain for my family because I made a mistake. Right. And I love my family. I don't want to see my grandparents and parents and everyone worry. And then when I was 5, man, I got molested down by the creek, which was my favorite place in the whole world. And I became afraid of nature because it's like such a traumatic event. And it's the first time I lied to my parents because I didn't want them to worry. Yeah. I'm 5 years old, right? So these things, until I went back and dealt with them and processed them and showed up with some love and compassion for myself and, almost like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting, hey, it's not your fault, like release some of that. Then I was able to handle these other situations. And a lot of our things stem from childhood, I think. We don't call it all trauma. And some people don't remember it because they don't want to remember it. Or some people compare it. Like I went to Landmark. I don't know if you ever did Landmark.
I've done similar, but I haven't.
Yeah, like Impact or some of these other things, or Great Life, or So I remember going to that and like I was getting up to share. And I was going to share that my milk carton that I turned into an art project got thrown in the trash by the teacher because I didn't memorize my address, but I was proud of my little art project. And then I told myself in my head, I'm stupid when that happened. I was going to share that, but the guy in front of me was an African-American guy who his dad had strangled his mom in front of him when he was a child. Dad went to jail, mom dead. Moves in with his grandmother.
Jesus Christ.
Right? Moves in with his grandmother. She dies in her sleep. He's sleeping in the bed with her. He's like, probably because I was still traumatized by what happened with my parents. And then his brother got shot. And so I'm like, someone threw my milk carton away. I'm a jack. What am I going to say? right? But as a kid, trauma's trauma.
Yeah.
We don't have the threshold. I mean, obviously his is a million times more, complicated and difficult and traumatic. But when I was 3, it was super traumatic to me.
Yeah.
Or
That
5.
poses an interesting question as far as like, so what determines whose trauma is worse? Because we can't measure.
Right. It's all threshold.
Yeah,
it's all
it's-
personal experience.
And as a for instance, I've met some motherfuckers that are numb, dude, that haven't experienced a bunch of trauma, but yet for whatever reason they just don't feel, like almost sociopathic type of tendencies, where like they just don't feel things, and they've gone through some horrendous shit and they just don't care. And the psychology community would be like, oh well, that's repression. That's they're pushing it down. I'm like, but maybe I don't fucking know. And then I look at stuff like that where I hear you talking about your milk carton, and I'm.
See, it's even funny to even say.
Well, no,
but it's real to me. But no, we can laugh about it now.
No,
it's cool.
It's funny, but it's not funny because it still was an issue, And so it's like, well, here's a real thing, man. Like, so my wife and I, we've been married for 17 years, and a couple months ago we started going to therapy. We'd never been to therapy before because fucking therapy is it's bullshit, but it has some moments where it's good, And we were talking like yesterday's therapy session was a little bit more tumultuous than I was prepared for in a number of ways. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And what happened as I got home is I started like asking myself like, so I feel this thing, and I feel this slight in this, unseenness, but am I really in a position to own it? Like, do I have a right to act like this is something important? Like, and I'm having this dialogue with myself about like, why the fuck do you give a shit? Like, am I being overly sensitive about something that I should just be able as a healthy human being to just let go of? And if that's the case, how fucked up am I? Because I have an issue letting go of this. And I'm still at the point where I don't know. Like, I'm like, well, so I just lean into the things that are healthy. I meditated. I had a great meditation this morning, had a great workout this morning. Ironically, I notice when I'm in those fucking weirdo spaces, I'm usually dehydrated, so I try to drink more water so my body is not being my enemy at that point.
Right.
Because
fatigue in the body.
There's a reality of that like your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions, they are played out through your corporal body. So if your body's fucked up, it's going to be worse than it needs to be.
Dude, so check this out. Have you ever read Great Pain Deception?
No.
All right, I'll be candid. I read a chapter and then I just did a Skype directly with the author. I'm just
fucking
that
humble
guy.
brag.
Like
right.
I'm just the guy, but like he's a doctor, so he'll meet with people.
You ever read the Bible? Yeah,
No.
I've read a chapter. Me and Jesus are cool. So anyway,
Yeah, that's good, man. I've tried to read the Bible. I went to Catholic school, which means I kind of Anyway,
I read the updated version of the Book of Mormon, but whatever.
I did not read that.
Anyway.
Doctrine and Covenants. I read a chapter.
There we go.
But
So anyway,
but the whole thing is like
What's
I
the name
had
of this book again?
The Great Pain Deception.
Okay, got it.
And it's that if we have physical pain, that the majority of the time it's emotional pain that is showing up as physical pain for our brain to be intelligent enough to say, I know you'd rather deal with this physical pain than the emotional pain. So it's a distraction. So I had pain in the neck all the time, which ironically, think about it, pain in the neck.
Right.
I met with him, did some work, and I've never had neck pain again. And I'm talking about neck pain that I was in on a trip with my family, and I couldn't move my head. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get on the flight to get home. Like I couldn't lay down. If I moved at all, it would seize up. Wow. And it was an emotional, psychosomatic thing. Then I hurt my shoulder. Like I was lifting, and then I threw the football with my son, and he liked to tell me I was old, but like I couldn't move it, and we were supposed to go on a trip. So I'm like, I can't even move my right shoulder. I tried stem cells and PRP and dry needling and prolozone and physical therapy. I did one MDMA therapy session and I had full range of movement afterwards and no pain in my shoulder. It was completely an emotional reaction of something I didn't want to face or deal with that was from childhood.
Yeah. Dude, I totally believe in that shit. I haven't read that book, but I've heard of other things that have
The Body Keeps the Score. Have you heard that?
That's another one, where it's
I haven't read it, but it sounds
I
right.
read somewhere, and this made total sense, like lower back discomfort and pain as an example is stress about money.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Shoulder and neck pain is stress of carrying too much load as far as emotionally with the people around you, where you are taking upon yourself their issues and not, saying, fucking be a grown up and handle your shit.
Yep.
And there's other stuff within, ankle. There's each sort of
there's a
ailment that we have has some sort of explanation in real life, pain and trauma. So I totally get that. It does make one think though. Like I remember I was really high the other night with my wife. We're sitting on our back deck enjoying a great sunset, and it was the most inquisitive, real moment that I think I've had in a long time where I said, I wonder if we'll ever really know how it all works. Because we have hints where it's like, I started doing this training with this company called Upgrade. It's a lot of NLP stuff.
nice.
And the guy who does it is one of 20 people in the world. His name's William Lamb. He's this master practitioner. I jokingly call him Asian Yoda because like he just can, he'll just come in and fix your shit. It's amazing. But is what he doing like really the way, or is it close enough to where like when you apply it kind of that you stumble into what actually allows you to like remove a negative program and reinstall one that works? Or, things like the law of attraction on a simple way, like when thoughts are things, like I wonder if we'll actually know like the full like scientific formula of how this shit all works.
Yeah, I think
because religion plays into this too.
Science is just like continuing to catch up to what's
that's
really
the beautiful
happening.
thing is that like
Right.
even it's all math, it's all science. If you can quantify how you like the idea of manifestation, you see all these fucks on Instagram like I manifested this car into my life. Like, okay, well, you bought it, but okay, like all of the different experiences, the relationships, and the money, and the things that led up to that. Okay, something happened outside of your conscious knowledge for things to be like whenever you meet a new friend and that new friend ends up being a huge resource later on and things like that. Like, I wonder if we ever get the map.
So I don't know, but here's who's given me the most data points and information that has been useful. And that's Dr. David Hawkins. He wrote
the No God guy.
No,
that's Richard Hawkins.
Richard Hawkins.
Okay.
So this guy he wrote Power versus Force, Truth versus Falsehood, The Eye of the Eye, Letting Go. Like this, and he has this whole thing called the Map of Consciousness. It's a scale of 1 to 1,000.
Okay.
And over 200 is integrity. And we have different levels of consciousness based upon our experience. And he says what happens at those levels. And I mean, you can just like start to see and predict how people are going to behave, what their attachments are based upon the level of consciousness. And so for me, his work has been the most useful. Now, is that just because now that I see his work, I look for those things?
Right.
That could be it.
Could be.
Right. But at the same time, like he talks about applied kinesiology, which is a muscle testing methodology to find out if something's truth or less true.
Dude, that's crazy you bring that up. We went to dinner with some friends the other night, and this woman had all sorts of issues with like celiac disease and was carrying all these different like traumas in her body and everything. And she went to this Asian Eastern medicine guy, and she overcame one of her main allergies to it wasn't weed, it was a different one where she had, I think it was eggs or something. She overcame her allergy to eggs through this test where like she's holding an egg and he's doing this thing by pulling her arm and asking her questions.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's some fucking Jedi shit, dude.
Dude, I mean, like after this, I'm going to see Dr. Craig Bueller, who was worked with the Jazz during Stockton and Malone's years, and he does something called AMIT.
Okay.
And what he does is he uses the different acupuncture points on your body to find out any muscle that's not activated, and then reactivates it through like literally pushing, and like they'll touch my head over an ankle issue and it hurts so bad, and then and then all of a sudden my ankle stops popping. Like, and so it's this muscle activation.
That's crazy.
And they use applied kinesiology to find out if the muscle's activated or not. And if it's not, then you go to this power position with your fingers like this, and then it goes strong. So it's crazy, because if it didn't go, then it would be some other issue, I guess.
Dude, I wonder how people found out that shit.
I know, it's kind of like,
because it's never really like super forceful. It's always like some sort of like softer entry point in there. If some dude just walked up to you right now and like pushed your head where that was, it wouldn't work. Like there's like an entry point into like being able to accept the fact that you have muscles that aren't activating and there's a way in. And
it's weird. I think when we remove fear and censorship, we can tap into consciousness. And I think that like there's moments where I'm writing something and I can feel like it's just flowing through me because I'm in that moment. And so I feel like, you know, when you look at all of these great artists and creators, like they tap into something and then they lose it at a certain time. And sometimes that's because now they're deep into cocaine, or because they're living with so much pressure and it's no longer an art form. It's, and like, because they lose that sense of connection. And so when I look at being at my cabin last week, walking the river, looking at the trees, there was a light snow that came down, and all of a sudden there's these purple flowers budding with snow and the green in the background. I was so inspired. I thought this was going to take me months and months, and dude, that book just flowed through. I mean, and it's 18,500 words, which is short for a book, but using comedy, 18,500 words is a ton, because every sentence and word matters. Where in another book, I can have like time for setup and context, and it's not a big deal. But it's like, no, if I do too much of that, too much context ruins jokes. Too many words destroys the humor. Yep. It's like, how do you trim that fat and get to the
economy of words, as they say.
Yeah. So yeah, it's, who knew we'd go through all these conversations here today, but yeah, I feel that our brain is so damn powerful and can manifest like physical pain so that we don't have to deal with emotional things. I remember for a long time, my wife would want to talk about things, and I would physically be as tired as possible because I didn't want to deal with the conversation. Yeah. And I really believed I was just tired. Then one day I realized, like, no, this is my body's defense mechanism. Yeah. Because it's an escapism. So I'd be like, all right, I'm going to sit up. We're going to turn on the lights. We're going to have this tough conversation. And as we had more tough conversations got easier, and we had less tough conversations because we weren't suppressing that, because it wasn't growing into a bigger thing. And I think the magical thing that her and I figured out was, we knew that there's times we're hangry or pissed off or irrational, or like old conversations are coming in because somehow it's lingering. And we just have this thing called the do-over. So we don't use it a lot, but if like something happens, I'll be like, hey, can I just get a do-over? And she'll be like, all right. And it literally melts the wall down. And 95% of the time that never comes back in. Because it's like, to ask for a do-over is like, I know this sucks. I know I screwed up. Like, I remember we were supposed to go to this amazing concert, but it turns out there was some family thing. We had to drive down into the Capitol Reef. It was 105 degrees. I was tired, and I was pissed we weren't going to the concert. And she said something to me, and I got really pissed. And she's like, whoa, can I get a do-over? I get this wasn't easy. It's hot. And I was like, oh. And just like stopped. Because if she asks, like, it changes my physiology.
How did you set that up so that works?
Okay, so one, do you know Dino Watt? He's a Utah boy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Dino had this thing called Business of Marriage. And so we did his program, which was really helpful for us. And I don't remember if he told us to do over or if we created it in his session. But I remember what happened was, I came home in one day in 2014. And dude, it was just a bad day. I bought a business. Things weren't going good. I was going to have to buy out this partner. It was going sideways. And my wife's like, I had a tough day. I'm like, you don't even know what a fucking tough day is. Like, it was my reaction, right? And so we get in this argument. And we don't fight a lot. Like, my kids were scared because they've never really seen us fight like that. And somewhere in the argument, I was like, I come home at I'll take a 7 a.m. flight just to be home with you guys on the weekend on a Saturday, even when I'm speaking. She's like it matters. You're tired anyway when you get home. And I just lost it, started yelling. And then I just was like, got in the car and I drove around the block. I walked out of the room because my youngest started crying. So I got in the car, drove around the block. I came in. I'm like, can I get a do-over? Can we start over? Like, tell me about your day. I know it was tough.
So you just kind of stumbled into it.
And she was like, yeah, it was tough. I was like, I haven't been telling you what's going on, but man, this business purchase thing, I haven't told you because you said I was discounting my value and I shouldn't do this deal. And you were right. And we just had a real conversation, ended up on our front porch swing, opened a bottle of champagne, which you normally celebrate with, but we were celebrating the fact that we just circumvented, days or years of something lingering because we had figured this out. And I've probably asked for a dozen do-overs in the last decade, and she's probably asked for 8 because she's a little better person than I am.
And you're worse.
But we've absolutely done. Yeah, it when it's a do-over, it doesn't come back up. It's crazy. It works so well for us.
Wow, I really like that.
I might have to use a do-over to tell some of the jokes that she says I can't use from stage.
You're just gonna do it.
Babe, can I just get a do-over on that? She's like, it's on camera now. There's no do-over.
Yeah, what do you do? Oh, that's cool, man. Well, Well, one of the segments that we usually do here is we like have a little current event rundown where we talk some shit. So
let's do it.
I have no idea. Mr. Cash over here is the one that kind of prepared him for us.
Okay.
So he's going to tell us some stuff.
It'll be probably news to me. I am not on social media unless I'm pimping one of my comedy shows.
or Disrupting Sacred Cows, the newest.
Or yes, or pitching my books.
Yeah. Navigating and Profiting in the New Economy. All right.
That book actually talks about some of the things we talk about.
It's awesome.
That's one of my favorite books of all time. You don't have to read it. You just put it on the shelf. It looks good.
Garrett's Guide to Osmosis Reading. Love it. All right. All right. What you got, B?
All right. The first one is, did you guys hear about the Winnie the Pooh horror movie that is coming out?
No.
So Winnie the Pooh, the Winnie the Pooh trademark hit the open domain. So the open domain, after somebody has a trademark, after the owner dies, after 70 years, it's in the open domain. Anybody can do it. So people all over the internet are freaking out because, this is your Winnie the Pooh now. You know,
Okay, that's
scary as shit, dude.
Yeah, so everybody's freaking out on.
Looks like Winnie the Pig, not Winnie the Pooh.
I know, dude.
Yeah, Piglet. They got everything's going on.
That wasn't Piglet. That looks more like Piglet.
Oh no. Piglet.
Like Piglet got fat.
Yeah, dude. Or like, I don't know, started eating himself. You know.
I don't like it. I mean, look, I have the complete Tales of Winnie the Pooh at my cabin. I'm a huge fan. One of my companies is called 100 Acre Ventures.
Okay.
Like I'm all about like imagination play and like
horror movie, then.
No, I don't want them messing with like because Pooh's like all zen. Like he's who I want to be when I'm a high strung.
Dude. He's the mopey depressed guy. Like, oh, I'm so sad.
No, that's Eeyore.
Okay.
Eeyore's the mopey depressed guy. Pooh's the like
my bad.
Hey, let's have fun. Yeah. He's like play. Let's just have a good time.
Do you think is Winnie the Pooh going to be stoned in these movies? Because now that I think about it, like Winnie the Pooh kind of has a vibe. Like
he always wants to eat the honey.
He's in the gummy tent, to use Keith Yackey's words, man. Like he's I need the honey,
dude. I remember when my kids were little, we went to the Winnie the Pooh in a theater, and my wife meditates a lot every day, but she wears an eye mask and lays on her back when she meditates. And so Pooh's sleeping with an eye mask and snoring, and my youngest was like 3 at the time. He goes, "Look, Mom, he's meditating." I was like, exactly. That's exactly what your mother's doing. Meditating, slepitating.
Dude, that's funny, man.
I'm not in on this this horror thing. No.
I think I'd watch it.
People get to do what they get to do.
Hold on, though, for curiosity,
it's up to them.
though. Like, just to see, like, what the fuck are they going to do with this? Because who are the what is Christopher Robin's the kid?
The kid.
Do we know any details on what's going on
There's
in the plot?
Kanga and Roo. There's Kanga and Little Roo.
So
the owl.
What we're looking at is it's based in the 100 Acre Wood scenario. I think honestly what this is just a gag horror film.
Okay.
Just a normal slash up, and they're just using the masks and the trademark of Winnie the Pooh to just stir up.
That's easy to swallow because it doesn't like poke then at the like beauty of the children's stories.
Yeah, I mean here's the deal, man. I don't want to like censor people, so they're gonna go do whatever they want. I'm just not gonna watch it. Yeah. I don't like horror films anyway. Like I don't like them at all.
Christian beliefs, is that what you're gonna?
No, because I'm a baby. Because I'm sitting there, and my wife's like, "You've never seen The Shining?" I was like, "No."
I love that movie.
So we go in our basement. We watch The Shining one night. My youngest knows that I'm nervous. He goes up and hides in our bathroom.
Oh shit!
And I walk into the bathroom.
To fuck with you or because he's scared?
And jumps out. And it's the closest I've ever come to beating him because I grabbed him. I was like, shook. It like freaked me out. Yeah. So the next morning, I'm down writing this book, and it's the earthquake in Utah happens.
Okay.
Remember that? We're like, everybody. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, is this The Shining? So I go upstairs. I'm like, that's freaking me out. I'm writing, and there's this earthquake. And then what it was like a week later when all the trees blew over. So I was like, what is happening? Are we in the end of times here? Yeah.
Did you ever see the sequel to The Shining, Dr. Sleep?
No, that looked way scarier. I watched the opening scene.
It's not as scary, but it's a psychological thriller.
Well, I watched the opening scene where they're like out at these trees, and I was like, I'm out.
And they can suck the...
Yeah, I'm out. Yeah. Like, I'm not into horror films. I don't like suspense. I want to close my eyes. Who's going to jump out and when and all that stuff. I'm a baby.
Yeah. I'm not a big horror movie fan either. Actually, it's funny because my wife and my son, every Halloween, they have these marathons where they'll watch Annabelle and all these other just horrible movies.
Yeah, I'm out on any of that.
Yeah, Conjuring, the whole sequel. Like, I didn't realize there's a whole Conjuring universe that has like 6 movies or some shit in it. I had no idea. And I'm listening to my son tell me, well, no, that's the girl from the one. And I'm like, this is like you're describing the Avengers to me, but I'm people that want to die.
I'm out on all horror movies.
Yeah, I'm out
Don't
too.
see them ever.
All right. What else you got, Mr. Cash?
So, speaking of people trying to do their job or not doing their job, a 1,300-pound bison was on the loose in Illinois for about 8 months, but they finally caught it, right before Memorial Day weekend, where they were going to be on the preserve where people were going to be. So they finally caught it. I just don't know how a bison's on the loose for 8 months after it escaped the trailer.
Like in this, like
it was in a city area, then it went to a preserve area. They assume.
So where did it get lost?
It said the only information here says since escaping from a trailer just on the street as it was in some.
Have you seen these Yellowstone moments where they're like, don't go close to the bison, and then like throw them?
Yep.
Like, yeah, they look pretty chill, but when they're upset, like you don't want to be around them.
What's that bison's life like when he's just out in the middle of fucking nowhere by himself? He's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, like it'd suck not having friends.
I'm gonna head to the city.
Dude, yeah, like imagine the terror that they could do in a city.
They're such a weird animal, dude. Like the shape
Their
of
head
them with
is
their
so
skull
big.
and like the whole thing. Like it's just we had one of those moments last time we were in Yellowstone. We were just driving through the deal and there was like a herd of them, like 4 or 5. I guess I don't know if that's considered a herd or not. 4 or 5 and just kind of halfway on the road.
Yeah.
What do you do, man?
And they look like they would
do
be
nothing.
They look like they wouldn't do anything, but when they're pissed.
Well, they're very unpredictable is what I hear.
Right, yeah.
And that's, even if that's bullshit and I haven't done the research and know enough, just the idea in my head that like, oh, that thing's unpredictable, and look at how 1,300 pounds.
So I was elk hunting 2 years ago in New Mexico. We're on this ridge, and there's this massive herd of bison, like a couple hundred, start coming over. And as they started getting like down the mountain and we're up the other mountain, my guide was like, let's go. Let's get out of here. I was like, okay.
Yeah, dude.
He's like, we don't want none of this.
Where did bison come from, man? Like, because there's always evolution in animals and shit. Like, how did that end up being the thing that was the most suitable for the terrain they're in?
They're tasty. They are tasty.
Never had one. Okay.
Yeah, like my kids, we do bison burgers all the time. And like I go elk hunting, so I'll mix like bison meat with the elk meat, and it makes a really tasty burger.
Okay, good to know. Do they sell them at restaurants or anything?
Yeah, like if you go to
normal restaurants.
and yeah, there's like really good bison burger at that restaurant on Main Street. That bar, No Name Saloon, has a really tasty bison burger.
City?
Yeah, it's a really good bison burger there. Then like if you go to River Horse, there's a bison steak.
Dude, I'm a big burger guy. I'll try a bison burger. I got no problem with that.
They're good, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bison burger.
I don't know if Lucky 13 has bison, but I like their burgers.
They're
just
like,
anyway.
We got
around.
a bison burger. We're gonna put
peanut butter and
some
bacon,
some 30 weight oil, and it's gonna be fine.
It's tasty.
All right, what you got, man?
Last one is there is a Smurf house in Michigan, cartoonized, that they just listed on the market for $4.2 million.
How big is it?
It is.
It's like 4 feet high.
First off, why would you buy anything in Michigan?
No shit, right?
4.2 million. You got to live in Michigan.
Second question: current owner, is he going to save some pussy for the rest of us, or what, dude? That's a boss move to turn your house into a Smurf house.
Man,
Think
like
about that. Dude,
like
you're in the
that's
mentality mindset shit. Like he decided to do that. That was a conscious choice, and then he invested in his house.
that just feels like some Hannibal Lecter shit.
Or he's got a real bad fetish with Smurfette, and he doesn't know. He's like, I'm going to get her to come move here. She's fake, bro. She's a cartoon. Not in my life. She's not.
Well, it's Doogie Howser that owns it.
Some young dude that's just super
What was
smart.
that dude? What was that dude?
Neil Patrick Harris.
He was in the Smurf movie.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I believe.
So you're admitting you saw the Smurf movie.
I had kids that were young at the time, man.
I love this excuse. That's awesome, dude.
It was bad.
You don't say?
Yeah. It's like anyone where like Alvin and Chipmunks where Jason Lee was in that one,
Right.
and it's like a human with the
Dude,
fake
that
things.
hurt me to watch Jason Lee because he's hilarious and I love him as an actor.
Dude, and honestly, he's in one of my favorite movies of all time.
Clerks?
Almost Famous.
Almost Famous. Yeah, dude. As part of the band Stillwater.
Yeah. Stillwater.
That's a great band, dude.
It is.
I wish that was a real band because I love the music from the movie.
Seriously, like I've seen that movie too many. Carrie will see me turn on. She's like, really again? I'm like, it's still amazing.
That movie has the coolest story with Cameron Crowe being the inspiration for the main character
Right,
in the movie.
Wasn't he right for
that.
Led Zeppelin or something?
Yeah, he did.
Right?
Yeah, he was a young journalist, lied to Rolling Stone, said he was older than he was, went on tour with Led Zeppelin, like met all these bandmates. And how crazy is it that such a prolific filmmaker like Cameron Crowe, because he did Vanilla Sky and he did...
Which I just showed that to my 14-year-old, blew his
it's
mind.
such a good movie.
I was like, wait till you see this, dude.
Yeah.
It's
what are some of the other
insane.
movies he did? He did Almost Famous. He did
some bad movies, but he did
he did Jerry
Fast
Maguire?
Times at he did Jerry Maguire, Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Okay, so
Say Anything. Did he do that? No. Is that him?
look up
Cameron Crowe.
Cameron Crowe movies.
Yeah,
dude, he's awesome.
It was definitely he did Jerry Maguire, which was
So to think that like that story is about him as this journalist, and he's had this legit career as an artist.
I like that we started as a Smurf house and where our brain took this.
Yeah, because it's way better
Was the
than
Cameron
some
Crowe.
fucking Smurf house. Which we can't we got to find out what's up with the Smurf house, and
4.2 million. for
maybe
a Smurf
we'll
house.
put in the show notes we'll put the MLS number, so if anybody else
Remember like the Smurfs were like a communist cartoon or something, or that was always talked
Gargamel,
about.
the fucking evil, that was
The
capitalism.
evil capitalist. Yeah. Which Gargamel looks like Jeff Bezos when he was just selling books.
He does,
Before
dude.
he became like
before he shaved
the
his head,
Terminator.
started on TRT. Dude.
All right, what do we find on the movies?
Yeah, so as a director, he has Say Anything, Singles.
Yes.
There it is. Singles. Oh my God, the soundtrack.
Oh
to
yeah,
Singles.
that I remember having that on
That's
CD.
where I learned about Pearl Jam. Honestly, actually, that's fucking lie. That's where I fell in love with Pearl Jam. I knew about Pearl Jam, but they had that song on there. I can't remember what it was, but great movie. Anyway, what's your
great.
ones?
Jerry Maguire,
Yes.
Almost Famous,
Yes.
Vanilla Sky,
We nailed all these.
Elizabethtown.
That's
Didn't
another
watch
good
it.
one,
Is it
dude.
good?
It's such a weird movie. It has Orlando Bloom in it, and he's the shoe executive that makes the most dog shit shoe ever, and he loses all of his money for the company because their stock tanks. He gets fired, and then his dad dies, and he has to do this trip cross country. And he meets Kirsten Dunst on a plane, and then ends up kind of like having this thing with her. The music, of course, is amazing.
I'll check it out. Yeah. What else we got? Here's where it goes bad. Aloha, awful.
We Bought a Zoo and then Aloha.
Aloha was unwatchable.
I don't even know if I know what that movie is.
It had Bradley Cooper in it, Emma Stone, and I'm like,
did
it
see
was
where,
it was
like, it's about
Cameron
rockets
Crowe
or some shit in Hawaii.
and I was like, this is gonna be amazing, yeah. And I was like,
Okay.
I was like, how is this a Cameron Crowe show?
I think I saw that movie. It's about like the relationship with the people in Hawaii, and like creating something where they're gonna have rockets that shoot out from the island or some shit. And
What is Hawaiian's terms for people from America? Howley.
Howleys?
You know what that means?
No.
Without soul,
Really?
without breath.
Yeah, they're probably onto something.
I mean, it would suck. You just like, oh hey, this is ours now.
Hey, bro, we're gonna take
We're
this,
just taking
and then
this.
we're gonna
Forget
plant
your
these
culture.
Things that can kill hundreds of thousands of people at one shot. So
Yeah, this is our
Knuckles,
bro.
military
base.
yeah, we're
Thanks.
good, dude. Okay, so what's the scoop on the Smurf house?
Okay, Smurf House has 7,500 square feet,
No slouch. It's a nice big house.
7 bedrooms.
Especially when
8
you're
bathrooms.
fucking 2 feet tall, bro. That's the mall at that point. You're living in the mall. What now?
So 7 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, 3 acres of property, and it's on a lake.
What kind of lake? We're talking Michigan. Like, is this like close to Detroit?
What's the city?
Here. The city is West Bloomfield, Michigan.
Don't know where
That's
that is.
actually a nice area, I think. Isn't that where like the old palace used to be, or close to it, where the Detroit Pistons played? I don't know.
I've spent
quote
so
me
little
on
time.
this. I'm pulling it right out.
I've
of
been to
this.
Kalamazoo.
I'm sorry.
Spoke there.
Spoke at Kalamazoo.
I've been to Detroit once, and that was because my flight got canceled.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been to Detroit. I had a really good friend that lives
That
in
looks like a nice lake.
Gaylord.
Nice lake, but you can see the nice Smurf house being spotted.
Yeah, it's very clear.
Okay, so first of all, $4.5 million. That's an investment. You're buying a nice house, or at least that's what in fucking Michigan you could buy a massive mansion for $4.5 million. But it's a Smurf house. So,
Man, I'm out.
what other sort of accoutrement come with the Smurf house, dude? Does it come with a cat? And a wizard book? All right, anyway. So is that what we got for the all right. Cool, dude. Fucking Smurf house? Who makes a fucking Smurf house? That's hilarious to me.
That's the most news I've learned about in weeks.
Well, dude, when we were talking about this, he's like, do you want me to go political? I'm like, fuck no, dude. I don't want to talk politics at all. That's dumb. I don't want to be canceled. Give me some stuff that's not on there. He's like, okay. And he didn't tell us. I didn't want to know. I wanted it to be raw, organic. And now I need.
But we answered it how we wanted.
I know, dude, and that's
we
the point.
took it.
Plus,
we had you looking up Cameron Crowe movies.
No. Next thing you know, I'm going to go make an offer on some house in Bloomfield, Illinois.
You do have the real estate background.
I do, man. Actually, it's been funny. I've been considering getting back into it, but then I'm like, I don't care. I'd rather make money some other way.
Yeah.
But
I'd rather entertain people.
Right? Dude,
fun.
I do want to say this as we kind of adjourn here, at least kind of head towards that, is when you were talking about your process and you know what happened at the cabin and the flow of that and how comedy plays into that and everything, and you leaning into being an entertainer and something, I really appreciate you sharing that, because my journey with comedy has been a little bit different than that relative to money. I haven't made a lot of money in comedy. It's actually cost me money to do comedy, even though I did those shows in Vegas, and I went big baller, man. When I went down there, got a big old suite at the Encore and did the whole thing. And, you know, $20 tickets, when you only sell 200 of them, that's not a lot of coin that you get back, you know, which is fine. I'm not complaining about that. But comedy has actually been somewhat of a compass for me in that it's made me take my podcasting company, Audio Automated, more seriously, because it's very important to me to not need money from comedy, so that I'm in a place where I'm enjoying it and I'm not compromised by it. Because I've seen, dude, I mean, I've been in the Wise Guys ecosystem for years, where it's like I've hosted, you know, dozens of shows and met a lot of really great comics and a lot of really great people, and sometimes they're the same and sometimes they're neither. So, and I've seen how money affects certain comedians, and like it changes them into a different person because of either a lot of it or not enough of it or whatever. And I'm like, I just never wanted to deal with that. So I don't.
Man, I do respect these comedians that just went all in on comedy from the very beginning and
dude,
had to struggle through it, because I'm in a pretty good financial position. So,
yeah.
But I'll tell you, I did Chicago, which is Zanies.
Yep.
Downtown, and it used to be where Second City was originally. Now Second City's around the corner.
Right.
So sold out show. My wife's with me because we love Chicago, and she goes, so I just counted the number of people here, and you $47 a ticket. I'm like, yeah. She goes, so that's not a lot of money then, huh?
Like,
Because again, we stayed in a nice hotel, we ate at nice restaurants. I'm like, well, babe, like, this is just the, you know,
it's the thing.
It is at least in the positive. But look, yeah, man, I've spent a lot of money on comedy because I went all out for my comedy special, and I self-financed it. Yeah, I didn't want to bring in any investors, and it's a spec, so there was, you know, nobody knew who I was in comedy. But man, it's I want to invest in myself, and this is an investment. I want to
make sure though that something's very clear about the story that you've told with that though. Regardless of that, you still fucking earned it, man.
Yeah, man.
You still earned it. You did it what you need. You leaned in on yourself in a way few people would be willing to.
Well, dude, like Tom Cassetta was my sound engineer for that. And so I think he did a Chappelle special, Jim Gaffigan. Like, you look at his list, and he said when he took the job, he was kind of like, how's this going to work? This guy's going to do comedy, and a lot of it's around money. And then he was like, when we were doing the final, audio editing in LA, he was like, dude, he's like, we don't even have to, he's like, the laughter's great. He goes, we don't really have to add any sound here. He's like, you turned me from a skeptic to a believer. So that was really cool. And Marty Callner, man, I mean, when you look at his IMDb, like, and his wife did Seinfeld's hair and George Carlin's, she's like, this is amazing. So like, I have chops with some of them, but the thing that really matters is like, I just was excited to share this with my friends and family, man. Like, see my parents out there, my aunts and uncles, and like friends. Like, it's super fun because one, it's a surprise for some of them. You know, they don't know if I could do it, and but I just like sharing it, man. It's like, it's fun to like think of something and then do it and have someone's reaction feel connected to you in that moment. Yeah. And then if it doesn't work, what's cool about comedy is you get the next joke. Yeah. It's not like you have to sit with it forever and be like, that didn't work, and now I'm in pain for months. Although, I've had a few sets that weren't great. My Boston show wasn't amazing because people were super drunk and I didn't manage the crowd. And I learned pretty quickly. You don't manage the crowd. The rest of the crowd can't hear you. You're not funny if people can't hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And of course, Boston was too drunk for crying out
Boston.
loud.
They represented for you, Garrett.
They didn't like my opening joke. I walked out. I go, it was October. And I was like, man, Boston, it is cold here. I'm like, it is really cold. You know, there's other places you could live, you know, that are better than Boston, like Tampa. And dude, booze across the board. I was like, what?
This motherfucker's talking about our boy Brady. Dude, that's hilarious, man.
So
right on, man. Well, congrats on what you're doing, man. It's been cool to watch. And I feel a level of inspiration watching you do it because you are doing it in a way that is on your terms and you're still funny. So
thanks,
that works for me, dude. Like I look at that and it's like, that's part of why I've invested in what I'm doing here and everything is because I recognize that like good comedy is repetition. It's chops. It's like sharpening that wit, sharpening that saw. And we'll meet up soon, man.
I love it, man. Yeah,
fun.
it's like, this is fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Garrett Gunderson, he's got this book, Disrupting Sacred Cows. When is it coming out?
It's coming out in June.
Okay. He's got this will
End
be
of June.
This will be out before your shows. You got Wise Guys, Jordan Landing for you. You got local Utah
10th
folks.
and 11th,
10th
man.
of June.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wise Guys.
Just go to wiseguyscomedy.com, click on the Jordan Landing tab, and he's going to be one of the top ones. He's got this sunglasses on with his gray Jesus hair and the flames. It's a pretty dope picture.
Yeah, the American Ream.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Thing,
Anyway, I
so.
appreciate you coming to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude.
Yep.